Nebraska has been gaining traction in the transfer portal fast. The Huskers are getting close to landing a big-time running back commit, along with pursuing one of the best edge rushers in America in a 5-star defensive lineman. So in today's video, I'm going to give you this jam-packed Husker transfer portal update, the top prospects they're going after, and everything else you need to know. So really quick, this is a loaded video. I'm fired up. If you are too, hit that like button really quick. If you support what I'm doing here, daily Husker football content all off-season long, transfer portal updates just like this, it really helps me out. It takes 2 seconds. Please hit that subscribe button for more Husker updates. Once again, hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much. But without further ado, let's get into it, talking about Nebraska in the transfer portal. Huskers are being very aggressive, going after some of the best players in America. And I want to get things started with the guy who looks like he may or may not be on the verge of committing to the Big Red. This is Chamar Marty Brown, running back from North Dakota State. You already see the stats on the screen. As a true freshman, he ran for 1,200 yards, 15 touchdowns, 5 yards a carry, and won a national championship as the starting running back for the Bison. Again, he's a guy from Omaha, Nebraska. He played for Crane Prep. I've watched him play since he was a sophomore in high school, and he is the absolute real deal. Again, he's quick, he's fast, but he also has a good build on him, right? As a true freshman, he was 215. That's really good size. So he has the ability to lower the shoulder, to get, to be our power back, to be that 1-2 punch with Emmett Johnson. And it should be noted, he has 3 years of eligibility remaining. He could be, in the fold for a long time for Nebraska. So I love Marty Brown's game. Again, guy who's very familiar with this Nebraska program, as you would expect. And it's been confirmed that the Huskers are going after him extensively, along with some big-time programs like Miami, North Carolina, Indiana's in here, Iowa State's in here. Northwestern is arguably the leader in the clubhouse alongside Nebraska. But I really like where we stand with Marty Brown. Just take my word for it. I expect something to be announced pretty quickly here in the next week, maybe in the next 2 weeks, if this really takes a long time. But the only thing that I'm really looking out for is the NIL. Okay, when we talk about running backs in the transfer portal, particularly in the spring period, to get a quality running back, it'll only cost you about $200,000. For an offensive tackle, it'll probably cost you $500. For a defensive lineman, it might cost you $600, $700. But for a running back, it'll only cost you $100,000 or $200,000. So it'll be interesting to see if they can come to agreement, if Nebraska can outbid some of these other schools. The only school I'm kind of worried about is Miami. They have a pretty good collective. But it should be noted around Chamar Brown, we can't really outbid a team like Miami if it gets over about that 300,000 range. Because I probably shouldn't be revealing this. We've talked about this before on the channel. But Emmett Johnson, when he entered the portal and came back to Nebraska, it was because he got a pay raise, right? He got $300,000. So we can't really pay Chamar Brown over $300,000, because if that happens, then Emmett Johnson's going to get mad and say, hey, why are you paying this transfer more than me? So Chamar Brown, I expect maybe $100,000, $200,000, and I think that'll probably get the deal done there. So really feel good about this prospect. And it's going to come down to NIL, as you'd expect for most of these transfers. Nebraska has the money, but they're being selective on how they use it. They're just not throwing money around. We've talked about that before on the channel. They're not going to be reckless. Okay, they're going to be very smart. I expect there to be. They're going to have a budget. And they're going to have a line. They're going to say, hey, we're going to pay you this, not anything more. If he signs that line, I think he will. We will have a new running back too, alongside Emmett Johnson. So this is a guy who I expect things to happen very quickly here. He will be Nebraska Cornhusker. I'm putting in my crystal ball right now. All right, let's get to the defensive side of the football, because Nebraska's been active here on the defensive line. So I talked about on the channel for a couple weeks, I expect Nebraska to go after a 3 technique in the portal. That has come true. There is a confirmed interest here in Bo Atkinson. This is a transfer from North Carolina, considered the best edge rusher right now in the portal. He had 7.5 sacks last year for the Tar Heels, 6'6", 270 pounds. Again, all the time on the channel, we talk about needing a 3 technique who can rush the passer at an elite level. We don't have that right now. We have a bunch of run stoppers. Bo Atkinson, he's a guy who can get a clutch sack on a 3rd down. He's kind of like a Ty Robinson 2.0. Now, Bo Atkinson, he's already penned down visits to Georgia in Ohio State. So there's some big-time schools involved here, but he's also been on the record saying that those 2 visits will not be his last. He's going to likely take a Nebraska visit. Nebraska's been pushing hard behind the scenes to try to get him to visit Lincoln late next week, going on to next weekend for the Husker game. So would watch onto this name. Again, Ohio State's going to make a push here. If it comes down to NIL, I don't think we can beat out Ohio State. But with that being said, I expect Nebraska to take an edge rusher in the portal. If they're going after this guy, they're probably going to go after somebody else. So wanted to mention that. David Stone is somebody I want to put on your radar because this is just a big-time player. This was a former 5-star recruit. He was a top 10, I believe, maybe even a top 5 recruit in the country as a true freshman last year for Oklahoma. Only had 1 sack, didn't play too much, but again, he was 300 pounds, 6'3". He was still developing, and this is a guy that Oklahoma fans, they had a lot of expectations for. He was in the mix start for them throughout spring ball, but he just entered the transfer portal yesterday, and it's already been confirmed that Nebraska is expected to have interest here. Terry Bratton was linked to him last night through social media. So listen, again, this is a guy who has a couple Nebraska connections in more ways than one. Williams Nwaneri, former 5-star, was one of his good friends in the high school recruiting process. Williams Nwaneri, for a long time, he wanted to go to Oklahoma because David Stone was going there as well. They wanted to team up. Now, that wasn't going to happen to Oklahoma. Let's see if that can happen at Nebraska if Williams can bring his friend David Stone over here and have a little 5-star duo on the defensive line. So will be interesting to see what happens here. It should be noted that because of the SEC rules, David Stone can't transfer to another SEC school because he entered in the spring period. So he's got to go probably to the Big Ten. So, I expect Ohio State to be involved here, maybe Miami in the ACC, but David Stone, big-time prospect. I expect Nebraska to kick the tires here. I don't want to say anything, but I feel this is kind of interesting. It is an interesting process to watch. It's going to cost some money, though. It's going to cost money, and I don't know if Nebraska is willing to put up that type of money it takes to get a guy like David Stone, former 5-star, with all 4 years of eligibility remaining. I want to talk about Kobe Stewart here really quick. This is somebody Nebraska has been linked to, edge rusher from Buffalo. Again, has 1 year left, 6'3", 240. More of a jack type of guy. He can probably play that 3 technique spot maybe a little bit. Last year he had about 10 sacks for the Bulls. So again, he's a legit pass rusher, and that's what Nebraska needs. They know what they need, so they've been linked to him. Want to mention that. Again, not too much coming out from that. Like, is he going to visit? I don't know, but they've been linked to be interested in him, so I want to put this guy on your radar. And then another guy that Nebraska's been linked to, who I'm just going to tell you right now, he's not going to come to Nebraska. This is Mark Navy Jr. Now, he has 4 years of eligibility remaining. He was a true freshman last year for Kentucky. He already visited Colorado. It looks like he's going to commit to Colorado. The reason why I bring him up, though, is that Nebraska did have confirmed interest here. They did call him to see the availability and all that. So that means that Nebraska is pursuing an offensive tackle, that they would not mind adding another, depth piece to this offensive line, which is something that I've called for, over the last couple of weeks. Like, we need another offensive lineman. So again, we're not going to land this guy. I'm not putting him on your radar for that reason. I'm just putting this note on your radar because would not be shocked if Nebraska does try to get an offensive tackle or an interior guard because they have been linked to this guy. So wanted to mention that. So it looks like the main positions Nebraska's been going after right now have been running back, defensive line / edge rusher, and then offensive line, and then would not be shocked maybe if we see a tight end in the mix or even interior linebacker. The last thing I want to get to before we get out of here, let's talk special teams because there have been 2 players who've been linked to Nebraska who just entered the portal. First is kicker Bert Auburn from Texas. Now, I'm not going to lie. He had a really, really rough year last year for the Longhorns. Again, he had a percentage of 64%. He missed a clutch kick against Arizona State. I'm sure we all watched that game in the College Football Playoff that would have won the game for Texas. So he's not the best kicker in the world, I will say this, but he's a guy who's done it at a high level before. The year before he had a percentage of 82%. So Bert Auburn, somebody who just entered the portal. Wouldn't be mad if Nebraska kicked the tires here and tried to, just to add another face to that room. One last guy here. This is a punter. This is James Ferguson out of Boise State, Australian punter. He was one of the better punters in the country last year. Again, averaged about 44 yards. He had a long of about 70 yards, 16 punts inside the 20. He's a rugby-style punter, so he just entered the portal. He was the starting kicker for Boise all of spring practice, so it tells me that some team was tampering here. It might have been Nebraska. Nebraska might have been the team that tampered here to try to get him. So would watch out for this name. Am I saying Nebraska lands him? No, but they're going to go after an Australian punter. This is somebody who is an Australian punter and clearly was tampered with. It could be Nebraska. We will see, but expect an Australian punter to commit to Nebraska probably very, very quickly here. He has 1 year of eligibility remaining. So, all right, guys, I want to give you guys this quick update talking about Nebraska in the transfer portal. Again, we're going to see a lot of players leave very quickly here. I know people are asking me, we haven't seen anybody leave. When's that going to happen? I expect today, tomorrow, and then once spring ball is over next weekend, we're going to see a lot of players leave. DB is that one room, right? DB, there's going to be a lot of DBs who enter the portal. Defensive linemen, offensive linemen, those are the main positions I'm really looking out for. All right, guys, let me know your thoughts down below. What do you want in the transfer portal? I want to hear what you have to say. It takes 2 seconds. Just comment your thoughts. Again, hit that like button and subscribe. As always, folks, go be grab. Go, Rhule. See you in the next one.